The rifle's report echoed across the snow-covered valley like thunder breaking the silence of a winter's night. Logan Blackwood lowered his Winchester, squinting through the bitter Montana wind as the gray wolf collapsed 50 yards from his herd. The predator had killed 2 calves already. There wouldn't be a third. Logan's breath formed clouds in the frigid air as he reloaded with practiced precision, fingers stiff from the cold, but moving with the mechanical efficiency of a man who'd handled firearms most of his life. His right leg throbbed, an old war wound that never healed right. A permanent souvenir from Gettysburg where Union artillery had nearly taken it clean off. That's the 3rd one this month, he muttered to himself, scanning the horizon where darkness was swallowing the last purple light. His 42 years sat heavy on him tonight, each one earned through blood and loss. The cabin stood 100 yards back, a fortress of hewn logs with rifle ports disguised as decorative elements, a design he'd implemented after the war. Inside was sparse but functional, an arsenal mounted on the walls, tanned hides stretched over chairs, bookshelves filled with military texts, and maps of the territory pinned with brass tacks. It wasn't just a home, it was a defensive position. 5 years ago, he'd buried Sarah and little Jacob on the hill behind the property. The fever had taken them in 3 days while he helplessly watched. After that, he'd turned the ranch into his personal fortress. Some men drank themselves to death after such loss. Logan had chosen isolation instead. The shot came just after midnight, a distant crack that pulled Logan from restless sleep. His hand was on his Colt Navy revolver before his eyes fully opened, senses instantly alert. Nobody fired a gun in this territory at night unless there was serious trouble. 3 minutes later, the knock came at his door, 3 rapid taps, then silence. Logan moved silently across the floorboards, avoiding the spots that creaked. He positioned himself to the side of the door, revolver ready, and called out, "State your business." "Please," came a woman's voice, strained and desperate. "They're coming. I need help." Logan hesitated only a moment before unlatching the door, keeping his body shielded and his revolver raised. The door swung open to reveal a woman standing in the moonlight, her figure illuminated against the snow. She was Apache, perhaps 24, with intelligent eyes now wide with fear. Blood stained the shoulder of her tattered dress. Her raven hair whipped around her face in the bitter wind. Most striking was the Remington revolver gripped in her right hand, its barrel still warm from recent fire. "They're coming," she repeated, voice steadier than her trembling body suggested. "I shot one of them. There are 3 more." Logan's tactical assessment took seconds. The woman was clearly running from someone, had defended herself, and was now being hunted. His military instincts overrode any hesitation. "Get inside," he commanded, pulling her through the doorway and immediately bolting it behind her. "Name?" "Elena Redhawk," she answered, scanning the cabin interior with the practiced eye of someone accustomed to assessing threats. Logan moved to the window, checking the approaches to the cabin. "Who's hunting you?" "Silas Dexter and his men." Her voice hardened at the name. "Bounty hunters." The name landed like a stone in Logan's stomach. Silas Dexter was infamous in these parts. A former Confederate sharpshooter turned mercenary, known for bringing in bounties dead rather than alive. If Dexter was involved, this wasn't a simple matter. "You hit one of them?" Logan asked, retrieving a second rifle from the wall. "In the leg. Won't kill him, but he won't move fast." She winced as she shifted position, revealing more blood on her dress. "They've been tracking me for 3 days." Logan handed her a cloth to press against her wound. "Why are they after you?" Before she could answer, a voice boomed from outside, cutting through the howling wind. "Blackwood, I know you've got the Apache woman in there. This doesn't concern you. Send her out, and you can go back to your miserable existence." Logan recognized the southern drawl immediately. Silas Dexter. You've got 10 minutes before we burn you out, Dexter continued. Your choice if you want to die for an Indian fugitive. Logan turned to Elena, who met his gaze without flinching. What did you do to earn Dexter's attention? I have something they want, she said, reaching into her dress to produce a folded piece of leather. She opened it briefly, revealing a crude map with markings. My brother found a gold deposit on our ancestral land. They killed him for it. I escaped with this. The stakes were immediately clear. Logan's jaw tightened as he assessed the situation. 3 armed men outside, likely positioned to cover all approaches. Dexter was no amateur. He'd have the tactical advantage of being able to set fire to the cabin. I'll leave, Elena said suddenly. This isn't your fight. Logan shook his head, checking the loading on his rifle. You came to the wrong cabin if you wanted someone who'd turn you over. His voice was gravel. But you came to the right one if you wanted someone who knows how to fight. He positioned himself by the window, rifle barrel protruding through a narrow gap in the shutters. We've got one advantage. They want you alive to find that gold. Means they'll hesitate. I won't, Elena said, checking her Remington. Only 2 bullets remained. Logan handed her a box of ammunition. Then we understand each other. The first shot came moments later, a warning round that splintered the wood beside the window. Logan tracked the muzzle flash and fired in response. A cry of pain told him he'd hit his mark. One down, he murmured, already moving to another position. Gunfire erupted from multiple directions. Bullets thudded into the logs as Logan and Elena returned fire methodically. The exchange lasted nearly 10 minutes before an eerie silence fell. That's 1 man dead, Blackwood. Dexter's voice was tight with fury. I'll be back with more men. And next time, I won't be so polite. Logan listened as horses galloped away, then turned to Elena. Her face was set in grim determination as she reloaded her revolver. He'll be back, she said. It wasn't a question. Yes, Logan agreed, checking his wound supplies. With reinforcements. And next time, he won't bother with warnings or negotiations. Elena's eyes flickered to the map she tucked away. This isn't just about gold. The Westland Mining Company wants this land. They've been forcing out settlers and tribes alike. Dexter works for them, for a man named Richard Montgomery. Montgomery, Logan repeated, recognition darkening his features. The railroad investor turned mining baron. I've heard stories, none of them good. Elena nodded. He was there when they killed my brother. Watched it happen, then took the map. I stole it back before escaping. She met his eyes. They've killed dozens for that gold. My brother was just one more body to them. Logan's expression hardened. Corporate greed disguised as progress. He'd seen enough of that after the war when land speculators descended on struggling veterans. Then we'd better be ready, he said, moving to secure the cabin, because they're not just after the map anymore. Now they need to silence us both. Dawn broke crisp and clear, revealing a blanket of pristine snow marred only by dark patches of blood, where Logan had hit one of Dexter's men. Elena stood at the window, her wound bandaged, watching for movement through a narrow gap in the shutters. They'll come from the ridge next time, Logan said, laying out weapons on the table. Better vantage point. He'd spent the early hours teaching Elena how to use his spare Winchester, impressed by how quickly she grasped the mechanics. Her hands were steady, her aim natural. My brother taught me to shoot, she explained, sensing his unasked question. Before the soldiers forced us onto the reservation. Logan nodded, respect evident in his expression. These should fit you, he said, tossing her a set of his old clothes, more practical than her torn dress for what was coming. As Elena changed behind a blanket hung for privacy, Logan studied the crude map she'd entrusted to him. The gold deposit was substantial, located in a canyon 10 miles south, technically on reservation land, but that wouldn't matter to men like Montgomery. We need to get to town, Logan decided, rolling up the map. Find Sheriff Garrison. He's a reasonable man, might help us. Elena emerged, now dressed in trousers and a flannel shirt that hung loose on her frame. She tied her long hair back with a leather strip. "Towns aren't safe for my kind," she said flatly. "Neither is this cabin, come nightfall." Logan checked his pocket watch. "Dexter will return with at least 6 men. We need ammunition and allies." The journey to Bitter Creek would take 4 hours through snow-covered terrain. Logan packed methodically: ammunition, medical supplies, dried meat, water. He showed Elena how to walk in his tracks to conserve energy, and which landmarks to use for navigation if they became separated. "If I fall, you keep moving," he instructed. "Head for Turner's smithy at the edge of town. Tell him Logan sent you. He served with me at Cold Harbor." Elena's eyes narrowed. "I didn't survive this long by abandoning allies." Logan almost smiled. "Stubbornness won't stop a bullet." "Neither will retreating," she countered. They set out as the sun climbed higher, moving through pine forest where shadows offered concealment. Logan's military training showed in how he selected their route, avoiding exposed ridgelines and keeping escape routes available. 2 hours into their journey, Elena suddenly gripped his arm, pointing to fresh tracks in the snow. 3 men on horseback had crossed their path recently, heading toward town. "Dexter's scouts," Logan muttered. "They're cutting us off." They changed course, moving deeper into the forest where horses would struggle to follow. The temperature dropped as afternoon shadows lengthened, and Logan's leg began to stiffen painfully. He pushed through it, maintaining their pace. The ambush came in a small clearing they couldn't avoid. 2 riders emerged from behind massive pines, rifles raised. "That's far enough," called the larger man, a scarred brute with a patchy beard. "Dexter wants the woman and that map." Logan raised his hand slowly, feeling Elena tense beside him. "We're just heading to town for supplies. And I'm just aiming to put a hole in you if you don't hand her over." The man sneered, cocking his rifle. Logan had noted the second rider's position, slightly behind his companion's line of fire. It was a novice's mistake. In one fluid motion, he drew his revolver and fired, hitting the larger man in the chest before diving sideways into the snow. Elena's reaction was equally swift. She dropped to one knee and fired twice at the second rider, catching him in the shoulder. He tumbled from his horse with a scream that echoed through the trees. "Move!" Logan shouted, grabbing her arm as they sprinted toward the fallen men's horses. Elena swung into the saddle with surprising grace, while Logan mounted the second horse, wincing as his bad leg protested. They galloped away as more shots rang out from the trees, a third ambusher they hadn't spotted. "You ride like you were born to it," Logan observed as they put distance between themselves and their pursuers. "My people had horses before yours came to this land," she replied simply. They reached Bitter Creek as dusk settled over the town, its scattered buildings casting long shadows across the snow-covered main street. Logan led them to the livery stables at the edge of town, avoiding the busier establishments. "Keep your head down," he warned as they dismounted. "Dexter will have men watching." The smithy stood adjacent to the stables, smoke rising from its chimney. Logan approached cautiously, Elena close behind him. Jacob Turner was heating metal when they entered, his massive frame bent over the forge. He straightened at the sound of the door, hammer raised defensively until recognition dawned on his face. "Logan Blackwood," he rumbled, lowering the hammer. "Thought you'd sworn off civilization." "Circumstances change," Logan replied, clasping Turner's outstretched hand. "We need help, Jacob." Turner's eyes shifted to Elena, taking in her appearance without comment. "Always trouble with you, isn't it?" He secured the smithy door. "What kind this time?" As Logan explained the situation, Turner's expression grew darker. The blacksmith and Logan had fought side by side at Cold Harbor, where Turner had saved Logan's life by carrying him off the field after his leg was shattered. Their bond had been forged in blood and gunfire, the kind that didn't break easily. Westland's been buying up claims all through the territory, Turner confirmed. Those who won't sell have accidents. Montgomery's got half the town in his pocket. He glanced at Elena, including Sheriff Garrison. The revelation hit Logan like a physical blow. Garrison's on Westland's payroll? Turner nodded grimly. Started about 6 months back. Wears new boots now. Eats at the hotel instead of the cantina. Logan cursed under his breath. Their plan had just collapsed. There's more, Turner added, lowering his voice. Montgomery himself is in town, staying at the hotel with a dozen hired guns. Word is he's expecting some big delivery tonight. Elena and Logan exchanged glances. The delivery was meant to be her. We need to leave, Elena whispered urgently. Too late for that, Turner said, moving to the window. Dexter's men are already watching the streets. 2 at the saloon, 1 by the general store. His massive hand closed around a shotgun leaning against the wall. But they don't know you're here yet. Logan's tactical mind worked quickly. We need evidence of Westland's operations, something to take to the federal marshal in Helena. Turner considered this. Montgomery keeps a ledger, records of payoffs, strong-arm tactics. My cousin cleans the hotel, says he never lets it out of his sight. Then we take it, Logan decided. Tonight. The plan formed quickly. Turner would create a distraction at the saloon while Logan infiltrated the hotel. Elena would watch their escape route from the stables. As darkness fell completely, they prepared to move. Turner handed Logan a worn leather jacket to replace his distinctive coat. Be careful, brother, Turner said, gripping Logan's shoulder. These aren't soldiers with a code. They're killers with a paycheck. Logan nodded, checking his weapons one final time. To Elena, he said, If I'm not back in 20 minutes, I'll come find you, she interrupted firmly. That wasn't what I was going to say. Her eyes met his, unwavering. I know, but it's what I'm doing. The sound of gunfire erupted from the saloon precisely on schedule, drawing attention as Logan slipped through the hotel's side entrance. The ledger, according to Turner, would be in Montgomery's room, 2nd floor, end of the hall. Logan moved silently down the corridor, years of military training guiding his steps. The guard outside Montgomery's door was alert, but unprepared for Logan's swift attack, a chokehold from behind that rendered him unconscious in seconds. The room was empty, Montgomery presumably drawn to the commotion at the saloon. Logan located the ledger in a locked chest, which yielded easily to his knife. He was scanning the incriminating pages when a cold voice froze him in place. Most men knock before entering a gentleman's quarters. Logan turned slowly to face Richard Montgomery, a slender man in an expensive suit, pointing a derringer directly at Logan's chest. Nothing gentle about what you've done to this territory, Logan replied, calculating the distance between them. Montgomery smiled thinly. Progress requires sacrifice, Mr. Blackwood. Some people simply lack the vision to see it. His eyes flicked to the ledger. That's private property you're holding. Evidence is what I'd call it, Logan replied, tensing for what would come next. The gunshot that followed didn't come from Montgomery's derringer, but from the doorway behind him. The businessman jerked forward, a red stain blossoming on his shoulder as he collapsed. Elena stood in the doorway, Remington still raised. We need to move, she said urgently. Dexter saw through Turner's distraction. They fled down the back stairs as shouts filled the hotel. In the alley, they found Turner waiting with horses, his face bloodied from a fight. Go, he urged. I'll hold them here. The main street erupted in gunfire as they galloped away, bullets whistling past their heads. Logan clutched the ledger inside his jacket, proof of corruption that might save lives if they survived to deliver it. They rode hard through the night, taking a winding path back toward Logan's cabin. Behind them, the sounds of pursuit gradually faded, but both knew it was temporary. Dexter wouldn't abandon the chase, not with Montgomery wounded and their operation exposed. Your friend, Elena said as they slowed to rest the horses. He may die for helping us. Logan's jaw tightened. Jacob Turner survived Chancellorsville, Gettysburg, and Cold Harbor. If any man can handle Dexter's thugs, it's him. He looked at her steadily. But we need to be ready when they come for us. When? Elena repeated softly. Not if. Dexter won't stop now, Logan confirmed. This isn't about gold anymore. It's about vengeance. They reached the cabin before dawn, exhausted but driven by necessity. Logan immediately began preparations, moving supplies to defensible positions, creating firing lanes, and setting traps around the perimeter. Elena worked alongside him, her determination matching his own. As they fortified the cabin, a strange calm settled between them, the camaraderie of warriors preparing for battle. Why risk everything for a stranger? She asked finally, as they cleaned weapons at the table. Logan was silent for a long moment. After the war, I thought I was finished with fighting. Then I lost my family and decided I was finished with people. His hands continued their practiced movements on the rifle. But some things are worth fighting for, even when you're tired of the fight. Elena nodded, understanding in her eyes. My brother said something similar before they killed him. That courage isn't about not being afraid. It's about what you do despite the fear. As the new day dawned, they completed their preparations and took up positions to watch the approaches to the cabin. The ledger lay on the table between them, evidence that might bring justice if they lived to deliver it. They're coming, Elena said suddenly, spotting movement on the ridge. Logan counted through his scope. 15 men, Dexter and Montgomery at the rear. The odds were impossible, but neither mentioned retreat. This ground, this fight, had become their stand against something larger than themselves. Whatever happens, Logan said, meeting Elena's gaze one final time, it's been an honor. She nodded, eyes fierce with determination. For my brother, for your family. The first shots rang out as the sun climbed higher, marking the beginning of their last stand. Gunfire tore through the morning air, splintering wood and shattering glass. Logan fired methodically from his position by the north window, dropping 2 attackers in their first rush toward the cabin. Across the room, Elena maintained a steady rate of fire, her face set in grim concentration. They're testing our positions, Logan called out, ejecting spent casings from his Winchester. Dexter's smarter than a frontal assault. As if confirming his assessment, the attackers pulled back to the tree line. An eerie silence fell, broken only by the moaning of a wounded man in the clearing. 8 on the west side, 5 east, plus Dexter and Montgomery hanging back, Logan calculated, using a mirror to check positions without exposing himself. They'll try to flank us next. Elena moved to the rear window, keeping low. There, she whispered, spotting movement near the woodshed. 3 men with coal oil. Logan's expression hardened. They're going to burn us out. The fire started at the south corner, flames licking up the outer logs with alarming speed. Smoke began seeping through cracks as the attackers renewed their gunfire, keeping Logan and Elena pinned down while the fire spread. We need to trigger the surprises, Logan decided, reaching for a cord running along the floor, connected to the first of several traps they'd prepared around the cabin. The explosion rocked the clearing as buried powder kegs detonated, sending 2 would-be arsonists flying. Screams echoed as hidden pit traps claimed more victims. Exactly as Logan had planned. Now, he shouted, and they executed their rehearsed maneuver, Elena providing covering fire while Logan ran to the water barrel, dousing the flames at the south corner. A bullet grazed his arm as he worked, but he ignored the burning pain. The fire hissed and died under the deluge, buying them precious time. Inside again, Logan reloaded, breathing heavily. 7 down, 8 still active. Elena passed him a strip of cloth to bind his wounded arm. The roof won't hold if they circle around to the north side. Then we don't let them reach it, Logan replied, checking his ammunition. It was running dangerously low, A voice called out from beyond the clearing. Blackwood, you've got one chance left. Send out the woman and the ledger. Logan met Elena's eyes. She shook her head slightly. You're already dead, Dexter, Logan shouted back. Just a matter of how many of your men you want to sacrifice first. The response was another volley of bullets pummeling the cabin walls. A lucky shot caught Elena's leg, drawing a sharp cry of pain that she quickly suppressed. Blood soaked through her trousers as Logan rushed to her side. Through and through, he assessed, binding the wound tightly. Can you still shoot? She answered by levering another round into her rifle. Until I can't. Logan nodded, respect evident in his eyes. They'll make a full push soon. We need to split their force. He moved to the back of the cabin, pulling up a trap door hidden beneath a bearskin rug. Tunnel leads to the hillside about 40 yards out. My escape route if the cabin was ever overrun. Understanding dawned in Elena's eyes. You want me to flank them? I'll hold their attention here, Logan confirmed. When you hear me fire 3 shots in rapid succession, hit them from behind. Elena hesitated. And if you fall before then make the shots count, he said simply, and get that ledger to the federal marshal. She held his gaze for a long moment before nodding. Taking the ledger and extra ammunition, she disappeared into the tunnel. Logan returned to the windows, firing intermittently to maintain the illusion that both defenders remained active. Outside, Dexter's men were regrouping for another assault. The minutes stretched like hours as Logan waited for Elena to reach position. When he judged enough time had passed, he took a deep breath and fired the signal. 3 quick shots that echoed across the clearing. The effect was immediate. Gunfire erupted from the trees behind Dexter's men, throwing them into confusion as Elena executed their plan perfectly. Logan seized the moment to burst through the cabin door, rifle blazing as he advanced toward their attackers. Caught between 2 fires, several of Dexter's men fell in the first exchange. Others broke cover, running for the horses tethered beyond the trees. Logan spotted Dexter scrambling for position, Montgomery beside him with a bloody bandage on his shoulder. Taking careful aim, Logan fired, catching Dexter in the leg. The bounty hunter collapsed, howling in pain. Before Logan could advance, a searing impact knocked him backward, a bullet catching him in the shoulder with enough force to spin him around. He stumbled, nearly falling as Montgomery emerged from cover, smoking pistol in hand. You should have stayed out of matters that don't concern you, the businessman said, approaching with his gun leveled at Logan's chest. A man of your talents could have found employment with Westland instead of an early grave. Logan struggled to raise his rifle with his wounded arm, knowing he wouldn't be fast enough. Montgomery's finger tightened on the trigger. The shot that followed came from behind Montgomery. The businessman jerked forward, dropping his pistol as he clutched at his back. He turned, disbelief written across his face, to see Silas Dexter holding a smoking revolver. You promised no federal attention, Dexter gasped out, blood staining his lips. Now, we're all dead men. The bounty hunter's eyes burned with betrayal. Over the past year, he had done Montgomery's dirty work, terrorizing settlers, driving off homesteaders, eliminating witnesses, all with the promise that his past crimes would be buried, that the federal marshals would never come looking for him. Now that promise lay shattered with the ledger's theft. Montgomery collapsed face first into the snow as Dexter turned the revolver toward Logan, hatred burning in his eyes. Before he could fire, Elena's rifle cracked from the tree line. Dexter's body jerked with the impact, the revolver falling from lifeless fingers. Silence descended over the bloody clearing, broken only by the distant sound of hoofbeats as the remaining attackers fled. Elena emerged from cover, limping heavily but still moving under her own power. She reached Logan's side, helping him back toward the cabin. That was a risky plan, she said, supporting his weight as they walked. Logan managed a pained smile. Worked, didn't it? Inside, they treated each other's wounds using Logan's military field medicine and Elena's tribal knowledge of healing herbs. The cabin was in shambles, windows shattered, walls splintered, furniture destroyed, but still standing. Reminds me of after Gettysburg, Logan murmured as Elena stitched his shoulder wound. Everything broken, but somehow still here. We should go, Elena said, securing the final stitch. More will come when these don't return. Not yet, Logan replied, nodding toward the window, where dust was visible on the horizon. We have company. Riders approached the cabin, but not Westland men. At their head was Jacob Turner, his massive frame unmistakable even at a distance. Behind him rode 24 men, farmers and townspeople from Bitter Creek, armed and determined. Looks like Turner brought reinforcements, Logan said, relief evident in his voice. A bit late, Elena observed dryly. Better late than never in this business. Turner dismounted heavily in the clearing, surveying the carnage with a grim expression before approaching the cabin. His face was bruised, one eye swollen nearly shut, but he moved with purpose. Thought you might need help, he called out. Brought some friends who've had enough of Westland's tactics. Logan stepped onto the porch, Elena beside him. What changed their minds? Turner grinned through split lips. Showed them copies I made of certain pages from Montgomery's ledger before you left. Always make copies, Logan. First rule of war. He gestured to the men behind him. Amazing how quickly men find courage when they see their neighbors were paid to look the other way while their land was stolen. The arrival of Turner and the townspeople marked the beginning of the end for Westland's operations in the territory. The federal marshal arrived 3 days later, taking possession of Montgomery's ledger and the testimonies of numerous victims. The company will send someone else, the marshal warned as he prepared to leave. These corporations don't give up easy. Neither do we, Turner replied, standing shoulder to shoulder with Logan and the other townspeople. In the aftermath, Elena refused offers to escort her back to the reservation. Instead, she stood with Logan on the porch of his half-rebuilt cabin, watching as volunteers from town helped repair the damage from the battle. What will you do now? Logan asked, his arm still in a sling. Elena surveyed the valley, snow melting in patches as spring approached. My brother wanted our people to have a claim to this land that even the government would recognize. The gold deposit will ensure that. She paused. I sent word to my tribe. They're sending representatives to file legal claim to the canyon. And after, she turned to him, her expression resolute rather than sentimental. I've spent my life running or fighting. I'd like to try building something for a change. Logan nodded, understanding completely. This ranch is too big for one man, especially one with a bad leg and now a bad shoulder. Are you offering me a job, Mr. Blackwood? There was amusement in her voice. A partnership, he clarified. Equal shares. Your knowledge of the land, my experience with cattle. He paused. No strings, just two people who fought well together, seeing if they can build something worth protecting. Elena considered the offer, looking out over the land that had nearly claimed both their lives. Finally, she nodded. Partners, then. They didn't shake hands or embrace. They simply stood together, watching as the sun set behind the mountains, casting long shadows across land that was now truly theirs. Not just a place of isolation, but a home worth fighting for. In the distance, riders approached along the valley trail, the first of the spring cattle drive that would help rebuild what they had lost. Looks like we have work to do, Logan said, straightening despite his wounds. Elna nodded, a hint of a smile touching her lips. I wouldn't have it any other way. Behind them, Jacob Turner approached, leading his horse. I'll be staying on for a while, he announced. Town's getting too civilized for my taste, and you two could use another gun. He looked between them with knowing eyes. Westland mining has a long memory, and Montgomery had powerful friends back east. Logan and Elena exchanged glances, a silent understanding passing between them. The battle was won, but the war wasn't over. There would be other threats, other challenges, But now they faced them not alone, but together. A former soldier, an Apache warrior, and a battle-hardened blacksmith, forging something new from the ashes of conflict. "Welcome home, Jacob," Logan said simply. As night fell over the valley, three figures moved about the cabin, repairing, rebuilding, preparing, not just for tomorrow, but for whatever the future might bring.